there's no cameras that come with it. Like I said, it has the option also to record your cameras as well as your switched feed. So if you went out for 4 cameras, you could come back with all 4 of your cameras recorded and your switched feed. And then you can drop this whole thing right into Premiere, and you'll have all the cameras in it, and you can re-switch it basically, or change stuff, or fix any mistakes that you have. And that's the really cool part. We haven't really used a lot of that, but it's really cool that it records all the stuff like that. I just have to slide down here a second. But that's really cool, and that works with either Premiere or Final Cut Pro. And nothing needs to be adjusted, they're already aligned, and then you just can pick which camera you like. Like I said, you can stream this to Facebook Live, you can stream it to YouTube, pretty much anywhere. We've noticed that, or we found out that you should have an external audio mixer. That works out a lot better. It does have a mixer built into it, but it takes the audio then from each of the cameras, so you'd have to hook up a mic to the cameras, so then you take the cameras, it would take that audio, but you can mix it a little inside the studio, or inside the app too, but we found it's much better just either take a feed from the concert or hook up our own mics and just have a little mixer right there. The one downside we found out about it is there is a 3 to 4 second delay on it. So if you're doing it like a group, like if I was doing a concert here, what I would be showing on the screen would be about 3 or 4 seconds behind what was actually happening. And one of the things we wanted to do originally was to take the feed out of this and put into our TriCaster, but again, it's about 3 seconds behind it, so it doesn't really work out that well. We're hoping that they fix that kind of thing. But if you're just using it regular, it works great. But if you are directing and using an iPad, you probably shouldn't be right at the event. You should be a little isolated because it's a little disconcerting when you have that much delay on it. And their website to go to is myslingstudio.com. And do not go to slingstudio.com because unless you want to get a stylish baby sling. Because I was telling people, oh, this is a great product, you should go check it out. They said, what's the website? And I go, well, sure, it's slingstudio.com, and they were very confused about what I was talking about.
Did you compare this to the Teradek unit? There's a Teradek product that's a lot like this.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. So it compares very well, as I would say. I don't know. Yeah.
How's the wireless stability?
It's pretty good. We haven't really had any issues with it. If you get the cameras obviously farther away from the unit, it gets a little iffy, but we haven't really. I think it says you can go up to 300 feet. So for most of ours, we don't usually go farther than that.
Price?
The unit itself is only $1,000. But then you have to have an iPad, and each of the camera links, I think, is about $250, roughly. And then the cameras, obviously, are your own cameras. It's just got a mini plug that goes straight into it. So you'll probably need an adapter. The last physical gadget I like to talk about is the Orion geared head from Pro-Am. Pro-Am is an Indian company that makes very affordable filmmaking equipment. About 2 years ago, we got a Blackmagic Ursa, which is a great digital camera, but it's very, very heavy. So we started to look around to get a mount for it, and we looked at several higher-end fluid heads that could handle the weight. And then we found a geared head that we could actually afford. Now, gear heads have been around forever, mostly in the film industry. They're very smooth, but they're usually priced in the tens of thousands of dollars at the low end. But then we found the Orion geared head, and I'll start the video here so you can see it real quick. It's a very smooth motion. When it stops, obviously, because it runs on gears. It has one wheel for tilt, one wheel for pan, and you can adjust the speed, kind of like a bike. You can either go slow or fast. If you have scripted shoots and you need to hit specific marks on there that you've made out, it works perfect. It works really well. It's not good for news or run and gun type shooting because it does weigh 50 pounds. So it's heavy, but it looks really cool, and when we go out to shoots and stuff, people are very impressed with it. But it actually does a really good job too and smooths out your motion, especially with a heavy camera like that, because before we were trying to do it on a fluid head and people were almost knocking the camera over. And it is priced around $1,900, so comparatively speaking, it's very affordable because the cheapest other one we found was like $8 grand. So, and their website is proam.com, and they do make a lot of other affordable filmmaking tools. They make a lot of dollies, that kind of stuff. They make really cool stuff. You do have to play a duty when it comes into the country, though. We found that out. The last gadget is actually a piece of software that we use a lot. It's ZaxWorks Pro Animator, and you can take Illustrator files and then turn them into very nice animated 3D graphics with very little effort. All you do is load the Illustrator files into Pro Animator, and then it'll output 3D graphics based on the paths on the Illustrator files. There's hundreds of animation presets to bring it on, bring it off, that sort of thing. And you don't really need any 3D modeling experience. And since most of us, at least I know we don't have a 3D artist, it allows us to have some really nice graphics with not a lot of artists. Here's some of the things we've just done real quick. You can extrude on this, you can texturize, you can add reflection, you can add animation, and all very easily. And all you do, like I said, is just put the Illustrator file in there and tell it what you want it to do. You can get this as a standalone piece of software, or you can get it as an After Effects plugin. And their website is zaxworks.com, and they also have some other great plugins, like they have 3D Flag, where you can make flags that you can add to your videos and that sort of thing that'll flow in the wind. And it's really good products. I think ZaxWorks on $400, I think, for Pro Animator, roughly. Thank you very much, and I hope I was able to show you some things you might not have known about.
Next up is Abby.
All right, let's see here. Whoop, did that work? No. First off, we're just happy to be here. I don't know if some of you guys heard we were going to have a labor strike, and it was going to happen on those days right during this conference, and they came to an agreement Friday night. So we learned Friday night that we were coming. So you going to hold it there? Okay. Is that up? That's up. Okay, so hi, I'm Andy from the County of San Diego, and I'm really happy to be talking about small gadgets, specifically the Osmo, and I'm going to show you a picture. I think a lot of you probably already know about it. These things are only about $600 or $700, basically. And this is what an Osmo looks like when you get it. So basically, you can use your phone, or in my case, like with my personal one, I use my daughter's iPod Touch because she doesn't use it anymore. It can shoot 4K. It's just revolutionized how we do video as well. A lot of videos we do, think about the people that are your audience, and your audiences are, people who are impatient these days. Maybe they're on a lunch break, maybe they're in the line at a grocery store. They just want to watch something quick. The Osmo helps tell a story like that, and I'm going to show you some examples where you may not even need sound to get the message across. So let me hopefully have some volume here. Let's see. All right. I'm going to start with, and we have a lot of cool parks in San Diego, so that really helps tell those stories. And I'm going to do one on the Google Trekker, and Google has partnered with San Diego County Parks, and this will explain it a little more. But this was all shot with the Osmo, and I think a Rode VideoMic Pro shotgun that I used to interview the guy. So. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try it again. All right.
Google Trekker kind of takes Google Maps off the street and brings it off-road onto the trail. It's pretty much just a 360-degree view. It's like the Google Streetcar, just like Google Maps. It helps people get a hiker's point of view of what the trail looks like, what to expect, what kind of conditions the trail is in, and really what a hiker can expect to see along the trail. from a technology standpoint, it's really bringing the trail to the people through the computer or through whatever device you're using, and they're able to experience the trail that way before actually coming out and experiencing it themselves.
All right, so yeah, that's a Google Trekker. Kind of low tech for Google. I mean, the Rangers don't even have, they have a phone app that basically runs it, but they don't even see what the cameras are seeing. So they have no idea if it's even working or nothing. And it takes about 5 or 6 months for, I guess, for it to appear. So we're going to find out in a few months if this actually happened. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of times during that shoot, I was off the trail in the brush, and I was covered in cattails and foxtails, whatever. And so yeah, I was off-roading a lot on that, and it was still pretty smooth, and so I was pretty happy with that. There's another one that I just said I'm going to take the Osmo out for, and it was a food inspection piece for the San Diego County Fair, and it was tight quarters. It was hard to get in and out, so I said, you know what, I'm just going to take the Osmo and the shotgun and see what I can do. So this is what came out of that.
We're looking for proper hand washing, proper dishwashing, proper handling of the food to prevent cross-contamination, making sure food's being cooked properly, that it's being stored properly. This is a very long event, but it's a temporary event. We're looking at what it's made from. Is it made from a meat product? We're going to make sure that that meat's going to be cooked to the right temperatures. Are they combining meats with vegetables? Well, we want to make sure that the meat's cooked properly before it comes in contact with the vegetables. What we do is the foundation of protecting the public's health, making sure that customers can go up to these booths and with confidence know I'm eating here at the fair and it's just as safe as going out to the restaurant down the street from their house.
So it was just, as you noticed, I mean, audio is a big challenge with that. I'd say the audio was mediocre at best. It was okay. It was a Rode VideoMic Pro, I think I used. Yes.
Can you hook in your wireless mics and stuff?
You can, yes. It has an 1/8-inch audio input like a DSLR. In fact, so something like this kind of setup, whoops. Something like this kind of setup would work. So what you would, you have to get a wireless system with an 1/8-inch out, and this Sennheiser does. So, and there is a adjustment on audio on the app itself. So you can bring the audio up and down. You can manually control it. And so I would recommend that. That's something I haven't tried yet.
It runs a little hot on the app, so you have to bring it down.
You do have to bring it down. You have to mess with it a little bit, and maybe in post as well.
What about the focal length on the Osmo? Is it similar to the GoPro, where it's just one single?
It's not as wide.
And you can't zoom in or?
Yeah, you can on the Plus, and that's the one I personally have at home. It's a 22 to 77 range, which it's okay. It's better than just one focal range. And so I have used it, and it's a little gamble to focus sometimes in the low light because it doesn't have the super sensor that allows it. Now there's a pro version of the Osmo. It's about $2,000 that has a better camera. It's a little heavier, but we're looking into buying that kind of kit right now, and I've been tasked with assembling that, so that's coming. Okay, I'm gonna use the F word here. I used it for freelance. Is my boss here? Oh. Anyway, a company sent me to China, and believe it or not, this is one of the videos they wanted me to shoot. You remember that god-awful mannequin challenge craze that ended, thank God? They wanted me to shoot that, and I thought, well, I mean, this is not why I went to China completely, but they said, we really want this, and I said, okay, well, I'll bring the Osmo, and here's a 30-second mannequin challenge piece in China. So, I mean, it really worked out. If I did that with a regular camera, it wouldn't have been as smooth and cool. And that didn't take long at all. I think we did 2 takes. Yes? You can with like a live stream box, or you would need an app, or. No, I bet you that's going to get developed over time. That's something that I'm thinking they're going to do. Okay. So, and then, again, parks is such a huge thing for us, and we're starting to do these things called virtual hikes, where I did the entire hike with the Osmo, and then sped it up and put some neat little facts and in there, and people love it. They want to see the hike before they go on it. They get what scenery they're going to look at, some points of interest. And that's kind of blown up, and we've done about 3 of them. And I'm going to show you one that was just opened last year called the Helix Flume Trail. And this is kind of, and we're actually looking into doing some 360 videos on these, so we might even ramp it up even more. But I used the Osmo. I just did the entire hike, which is, you know, it's fun, but it gets a little tiring after a while. You switch hands, you know, do this. You can stop, and just, you'll see a couple dissolves in there. So. Getting dizzy yet? Look out. So it's kind of cool. You can like tell a little history, tell some facts, show some of the beauty, and I'll just stop it there. And you know, people are eating up on this stuff. And the last thing I'm gonna show you, I think it'll pump you up. Actually, I think you guys need to start exercising. And we have a senior exercise show. Yes.
Before you go to the next one,
Huh?
so you had some pretty nice transitions there with the fast going along the trail, and then you stopped for a moment, and then eased back, and then that was very smooth going between the two. I'm guessing that was in post.
Yeah, some of it was post. Some of it was planned. How I would walk up to a sign, and I actually did slow down a little bit. But yeah, a lot of it was post where I was. There's a little motion blur too that I was put in there in post, and all this is on Final Cut 10. That's what I use. I didn't have to dive into After Effects for this, so the production, the whole editing part of it didn't take too long. Yes. Right. It's not great in low light, and I think the Pro version's a little better. The sensor's bigger. I'm curious to see what it looks like, you know, because you're right. It struggles sometimes in the low light, and the colors shift a bit. Yeah. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you, we do a senior fitness show called Feeling Fit Club. And where is it? Is it here? Yes. So, you know, it's a 3-camera shoot. You know, it's seniors working out. But we decided, hey, let's bring the Osmo, put it on a stick, and see what we can do. You know, and pepper it in every now and then. So here's a little blurb from that.
Okay, next we're going to do side step. All right, here we go. Side step. Swing your arms. Again, you can modify
You can all do
the
it. Come on.
activity by changing your arm
Do the
height.
chair exercise.
Good. Picking those feet up.
See, she can do it.
We're
See, there we go.
stepping side to side. Good. One more. Now we're going to do 2 side steps. So 2 and swing those arms. 2.
So that's the
and
only
swing
shot that
those
we took
arms.
there. So basically, that's on us. I forget. I can find out the name of it because we just bought it not long ago. But it's on a stick that has pan and tilt controls for the Osmo, and you can put. So then you put your phone at the base of the stick, and the camera's way up there. So you can disconnect it and do it that way. I suspect we're going to be using that a lot more. But yeah, the Osmo has kind of revolutionized some of the things we do. Yes. Yeah, you can. Okay. That's something we haven't tried yet, but maybe we will. Okay. Any other questions?
How much is it? How much does it weigh? How does it feel?
I think, yeah, it's like 500, I think, for the base model. It doesn't weigh very much. I'd say it's under 2 pounds or something like that. Does that sound right? Yeah. It's pretty light. I mean, if I can take it on a hike, and I went on a 3 or 4 mile hike with that, and, you know, after a while it kind of stung a little bit, but if you keep switching hands, you're good. But no, it doesn't weigh very much.
Spell it.
OSMO.
It's made by DJI. DJI.
DJI is the
DJI.com.
yeah. DJI, and it's about $600 for the Osmo. There's a Pro version that's about $2,000. Yes.
They're down to $440.
$440. That's a deal, guys. I mean, that should be in everyone's budget. Right.
Okay, we'll
Thanks.
keep moving, so we have time then. David is next then to talk about another DJI product.
That's right. I brought the DJI drone, that's a Phantom 4 Pro we have there. So you can come take a look at it afterwards or whatever. Does that one work? Yeah.
Come on over.
All right.
You can repeat what you said too.
Talking to the microphone. I tell people to do that every day. I brought a DJI drone. That's a Phantom 4 Pro with, you can look at it later today. It's got the controller there. And it flies phenomenal compared to the drone we had before that, which was slow and didn't work as good. This thing it really reacts and it gets a nice picture and it was a 3DR Solo. And we got it first, and this is a replacement, and it's good. So we have lots of gadgets that we use too, similar to these guys. We've got a GoPro Karma Grip, which is it was a little mini stabilizer similar to that last one. And you know, we've got a Pelican case full of GoPros and all the gadgets, and I break those out all the time. They're a lot better now. The GoPro, you know, doesn't look like a GoPro shot in the middle of your video. The quality is so much better than it used to be. We have a Helix stabilizer that we're still kind of working out which camera we're going to put on it, but it's more of a Movi style camera stabilizer, and we've used it a couple times. I use dash cams for police ride-alongs, little POV cameras to point it back at the police officer driving, and then I'll usually film them from the side like you'd see on Cops or something. And then the Karma Grip I already mentioned. But drones is what I've been assigned to talk about. So we've had one for about a year, a little bit over, I think, and we're still learning. We haven't used it in a lot of productions, but we're using it more and more. If you want to fly legally for commercial purposes, which is what we are, you have to sign up with the FAA. You have to get registered, and you have to learn all about their rules and regulations. And at first, I was really overwhelmed, and You know, a couple of guys in our shop have gotten certified, and I've been recently certified, and I know way more about aeronautical charts and weather than I never thought I would learn. I brought a chart with me if you want to look at it, and it might make your head explode the first time you look at it, but now I can read it, and who knew? But yeah, you got to pass the Part 107. It's $150 to take the test, and I passed. You know, it wasn't too big of a deal. There's rules. You can't fly at night. Even a hobbyist isn't supposed to fly at night. Overcrowds of people, you know. If you want to fly, you know, within 5 miles of an airport, you need to contact that airport and either advise them or ask for permission, depending on what airspace you're in. And you'd be surprised how many small municipal and private airports and how many airports there are wherever you live. And we live, you know, in the Seattle region, Tacoma region, and there's a lot of airplanes around here. We've done it a few times. You just call the airport manager and they say, cool, thanks for letting us know. What time are you going to be there? You know, and we let them know. And we've actually really never had a problem. We even were going to get authorization for the military base, and they didn't have a problem with letting us fly. But we decided not to. We didn't need that footage for that video. Which leads me into, you know, you don't need a drone shot in every video you do. Like, please don't. You know, you only need them for certain videos. Let's play some of that wastewater treatment plant footage. Pierce County built their brand new wastewater treatment plant. And, you know, it cost millions of dollars, and it's a big deal. And it's kind of visual. It's out there on the water. It's next to the championship golf course. You know, clients love drone shots, and they're going to always ask for them. And so in this particular case, they wanted, you know, documentation mostly for in-house stuff. So we did that for them, and we got to use the footage for our newscasts and other productions as well, so it kind of worked out well. And, you know, a typical shoot, you know, you're going to have different angles. You're going to have, you know, I call it the high and wide, where you're far away, you kind of show the whole property, you know. Why, you know, you want to show it relative to where it is, and you document the whole thing. You know, aerials work good for transition shots. You know, wide establishing shots is what I mostly use them for. And then kind of exit shots at the end of your video, kind of bring it full circle, kind of show a wide shot there as well. But don't cut drone. This is a great example of what not to do. Don't cut drone to drone to drone. You know, you don't want to do that. Like you usually don't do that with a GoPro. So yeah, you know, you could show a river, a housing development, you know, a city maybe relative to a freeway system, something we've done that before. They wanted to show that they were located right on the main highway. In this case, they liked the video so much, they just play it on their monitors in their lobby all the time, just so, you know, for eye candy when people come through. But yeah, different types of shots. You have flying up and down, works nice, you know, going just slow. Tracking left to right, you know, right to left, going in slowly and coming out slowly and just flying over. There's a tracking shot from right to left. It's just nice slow movement. I like a lot of movement. It depends on what you're filming. We learned you can't really see people, so there's not really much action in aerial shots. You can see cars and trucks, and depending on what you're filming, but if it holds still, it kind of looks like a still photo, I've learned. City and city skylines are awesome. That's like the #1 thing you're going to want to do is show your city skyline if you have one. If not, maybe a park or a farm, depending on, you know, what you're doing. So let's we talk about different straight down. There's a good one. Straight. That's not 100% straight down, but it depends on what you're doing. If there's circles, like asymmetrical shapes and rectangles, and you know, this is almost graphic-like. But straight down is cool if you do it at the right time of day and depending on what you're looking at. Like roundabouts, I learned look kind of cool in wastewater treatment plants. County government stuff, right? You know, if you're looking down on a strip mall or a Walmart parking lot, isn't probably worth doing. You know, it's roofs don't look great. Roofs look like roofs, and probably a waste of time. So let's see, and my favorite is find foreground. This one didn't have any, not too much, but if you find a set of trees or a building, you know, like a reveal, a flag in front of City Hall, what I did for the City of University Place, which looks really cool. And I could probably show some of that. We've seen enough of the wastewater treatment plant. It's called, I think, UP City Hall, something like that. And this is just a couple quick shots of how to use foreground. And we arced around it and I can talk a little bit about risk versus reward. Is it worth doing? You know, we got pretty close to this flag. You see it? And the wind was blowing, so the flag was blowing, and it ended up looking pretty cool. It might say flag, UP City Hall. There we go. And this is just a few clips, just an example of how well foreground can work versus if you're just up there shooting a building, a static, boring shot. It's kind of cool. We didn't know the flag was ripped until we reviewed the footage. We're like, wow. That flag's bigger than it looks, and that drone is really close to the flag. But I thought the risk versus reward was worth it. The last shot, we had to time it with the wind and time it with the flag, and it was a lot more difficult to do than, that one's probably good. I think there's a couple more. But yeah, you'll just a good example of foreground versus just a big empty building shot. Let's see, so that one's probably good. Oh, there's a roundabout, sorry. This is kind of cool. It's late in the day, so the shadows are cool versus during noon, it wouldn't look the same. Again, it's just graphic light, shapes look great straight down versus nothing to look at, I suppose. So just got a couple examples there. These shots haven't even made it in a video yet. We're just kind of collecting them over the last few months. So let's play the city skyline stuff. If you see the, it's called PCTV Channel ID. This is just 15 seconds. Foreground with the bridge.
You are watching
Skyline in the background.
PCTV. See Pierce County
Right
from
time of
here.
day, the light was just early morning, the light in the city lights. Again, the bridge makes it so much more interesting than just panning a skyline. Then the next one, do the South Sound Magazine PSA. I should probably slow down, huh? So there's foreground point of
Saltwater,
entry. There's only one drone shot in
trails,
this.
the arts, and fabulous
Just
shopping and dining. The South Sound has
PSA
it all.
for- That was a stabilized camera right there.
Stay on top of our South Sound life with South Sound Magazine, your guide for community life to nightlife, sprinkled with passion, family, and fancy. South Sound Magazine, a proud community partner with PCTV.
Okay, now let's talk about action. So those were kind of big, wide shots of different things. Pierce County is tearing down the old Puget Sound Hospital. And this is a big project, very political, very expensive. It's a lot of controversy over it, and we're documenting it. We're gonna make a documentary about the tear down of this building and then building the new 911 center they're gonna put there. So it's kind of a big deal for the community and in that neighborhood. So we've been documenting the tear down, and it's right here. So it's an old, historical, kind of crappy building. And that's the newer part of it. It kind of turned into like a homeless squatting place, and it got really kind of derelict over the years, and finally they were able to tear it down. So these are the before shots. So it's been cold shuttered, and you can just see how we needed to show the whole property, and a drone, it doesn't get any better than doing that. You know, we send out a guy with a camera, we're getting our close-ups, and our regular shots that we'd normally get, these are just the drone shots to show you that building relative to the neighborhood and to, you can see it, we call it the old haunted hospital. We've done a story on that too. So these are just the before shots. We'll get to some of the demolition, and it'll be, here's an arcing shot. I put that in there just to show you. They're hard to do. We're panning and coming around at the same time. Some drones you can just do a preset and it'll do it for you. You know, the new technology is better. Yeah.
We can with ours, we just haven't figured it out yet.
Right, yeah. Again, I've probably flown that thing 6 times, total, and I'm up here being the expert. So here's some action stuff. So when I said before, you can't really see what's going on, this is a good example of if you get close enough, there's some foreground and some action that can be really, useful. Kind of cool. You wouldn't get that unless you were up on a 4-story building looking down. And it doesn't really look like a drone shot because it's not moving now. It's just kind of different. And we'll edit all this together, and there'll probably only be a few drone shots in the whole video, but we're capturing it, we have it, we'll have options. And I think our operator's pretty close there. I don't know. I mean, he's a lot closer than it looks. Like that shot even, the risk versus reward. I guess the excavator guy probably knew he was there. And so anyway, it's kind of cool footage to capture with a drone that's probably impossible to get. And you can see when the documentary happens, it'll move along. We'll probably use these shots as transitions from one part of the video to the next, and that's it. Then it'll be interviews and field regular cameras. Yeah, I like that shot a lot. That's a tracking shot. That's nice. That's the last one there. Okay, let's show the Ording story, and we can show you something that was actually used in an edited piece instead of watching my B-roll. The city of Ording is right in the shadow of Mount Rainier, which is a volcano, an active volcano. And so every year the kids practice a drill, an evacuation drill. They literally have to, the entire school district, they walk single file, then they leave the school and they walk to higher ground, basically. It's called Ording evacuation drill. Oh yeah, it's the one with the guy. Yeah, there it is, perfect. I guess the story will explain it better than I could.
Students in the city of Ording are practicing the most important walk of their lives. Mount Rainier may be the city's most beautiful asset, but scientists believe it's the most dangerous volcano in the U.S., and it could erupt in our lifetime. Megan Hutton looks at how the city is preparing during Volcano Preparedness Month.
It appears to be a normal day at Ording High School.
Your second point was right here. Al partido.
But there's nothing typical in Miss Curtis's Spanish class.
And encouraging the young students that might be kind of scared or feel like the walk is really long.
Once a year, students from all 4 Ording schools practice a Lahar evacuation drill.
This is the process. See, everyone knows what to do.
It's become a tradition, from kindergartners to seniors, teachers and volunteers.
It's part of the culture of kids growing up here. We practice the Lahar drill every year.
The idea behind it is to get the kids to safety and to have them be comfortable with the path that they would take should those Lahar sirens go off.
This should be automatic when they hear it. We live in maybe the most beautiful city in the state of Washington. We have the most beautiful view of Mount Rainier, but we're also in a very real threat of a Lahar.
Mount Rainier is one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the United States. It has a history of producing volcanic mud flows of mountain debris, like what we saw when Mount St. Helens erupted.
Here in Ording, we see that there have been numerous Lahars in the past, and the most recent one happened about 500 years ago. There is a forest buried beneath Ording.
Where all those trees once stood is now a bustling city.
Ording has grown a lot over the last few years, as has Sumner and Puyallup and Tacoma, and there's a lot of people in the path of Mount Rainier.
The brisk walk through neighborhood streets, passing cars on Calistoga Street. A mass of more students evacuating on the new Calistoga levee. It's all part of the drill.
They're kindergartners, it's a long walk. It really is. It's hard for adults sometimes.
It's a trek, so it's about 2 miles up the hill to what we call the 30-foot mark, and that's the area of safety.
Good job! Come on, pick up the pace! Let's go! They only have so long to get out, and you got to train them to. I know it's sad to say, but we got to teach them that there's a point that you got to be at in order to escape the Lahar if it happens in our lifetime.
The first milestone is making it over the Puyallup River in 30 minutes. Then it's further uphill to the old soldiers' home. In a real event, they'll have a Lahar warning system on their side.
When the Lahar begins, it has to travel a distance until it reaches the first sensor of the Lahar detection system. So that is about a 45 minutes travel time from here. And that's about the fastest time that a Lahar could possibly reach here.
A delegation of scientists from Colombia is here for the drill as part of an international effort to boost volcano preparedness. In 1985, a snow-covered volcano in Colombia erupted, generating lahars that killed more than 23.
Out of the state, but yeah, that's real. Seattle's you don't have to worry about, just down in Pierce County. Okay, the last thing is flyaways do happen. These things do drop out of the sky. They do crash. You know, you got to be careful. I would replace the batteries. I would replace the actual drone, maybe even 2 years, every 2 years, 3 years at most. It's all new technology too. They're still figuring it out. Tree canopy is bad. It can't communicate with the satellites. You're flying under trees. It's probably not a good idea anyways. Yeah, it can lose signal with the controller if it goes out of line of sight. Bad idea. Anyway, that's probably all we have time for. Any questions for now? I knew it. What do we got? 2. So like for that Ording story, I was running with a camera, we had a visual observer and a drone operator together, and then even another camera. And then our producer had our Karma grip stabilizer running around getting the shots of the kids and stuff. So yeah, we had a lot of camera systems in on that.
What are the laws about driving over a vehicle? That's how like the ground over?
Yeah, it's a kind of a gray area. So they say directly over people. So if they're in a car, they're probably safer than if they weren't. Crowds of people are a bad idea. For the Ording story, we were back a ways, and it does say if they're directly involved with your production, it's okay. You can't just show up at a parade or something and start buzzing around. But I'm under the impression that if they're in a vehicle, they're okay. But yeah, yes, sir.
Obviously for the need of the news or some entertainment value, some cool shots. But are you going to get training to provide drone coverage for emergency, like what's happened with these? I understand the drones were great to find and go
Yeah.
between alleyways and out the
Sure.
areas that weren't.
That's a good question. I know that some of the fire departments have their own. I know the police department wants one if they don't already have one. But I was actually near the forest fire in eastern Washington earlier this summer. I was 10 miles away from one, and there was a drone that buzzed right over where we were camping. You're not in the middle of the woods, and a drone just flies right over you. But they were inspecting the fire, and they went out towards night so they could see it better. And it's probably just to know how big this thing was and for documentation. But I'm sure our Public Works Department has one or wants one to measure the salt piles so they can see how much stock they have, as opposed to a guy going out there and trying to measure it. They can do it in just a few minutes, what used to take a guy half a day. So yeah, they're not just flying cameras, they're good for surveying and LiDAR and all sorts of stuff. Yes, sir, or ma'am.
It's okay. This is less a question or a promo.
Yes.
If you are interested in drones and learning about the regulations, there's a session tomorrow morning.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And they'll talk about the legal, I believe, and yeah, which is very helpful. We learned a lot. We dove into this before we put one up in the air, because being a county government, you got to cover your liabilities and whatnot. So cool. Thank you, guys.
Very good. All right, any other questions from any of our panel about any of the stuff you've learned here? I'll share you two quick stories as far as the city of Richmond and drones. We use the heck out of ours, and not just for production. Our police department uses it for evidence gathering. We also had a situation where someone was a runner and went up on top of a roof. They didn't want to be able to find the guy. Instead of calling the fire department out and bringing up the ladder truck going out that, we flew the drone over and found him hiding behind a thing. And so they knew where he was. We know you're up there. You have to come down now. Recently, we had a real bad fire on an island, Bateman Island, and the fire department called us out, and we went and flew it so they could see where the fire was before they sent crews in for safety specs. Economic development uses it now for mapping purposes, wastewater and garbage, sewer, and everybody uses it. So it's more than just a production. It's really becoming quite a tool. And now, my last quick story, we called ours an ECS, Elevated Camera System. What it was is about 5 years ago, we said we'd really like to get this tool, but because it's capital equipment and council has to approve it, how do you go and tell council we want to get a drone? And we knew they would just shoot it down, so we came up with the acronym ECS. Wrote up a staff report about the elevated camera system, these high-angle shots, great overview of the thing, and they sat there and read the staff report and praised, yes, we need an elevated camera system. We need these high-end shots. They signed it, and we have a drone. So but yes, you have to be licensed and insured. That's for certain. Because if you get in trouble without it, you're on the hook for a $10,000 fine, up to a year and a half in jail. So, not fun.
In Colorado, there was a circumstance, so you might want to think about this in your emergency stuff to make sure you're coordinated with your emergency responders, because we had a wildfire, and some private person flew a drone over the fire to do his own inspection and prevented the tankers from dropping water on the fire.
Mm-hmm. That is the bad part.
There's a state law now that has some impact on that.
Yeah, of course, we always coordinate ours with our staff and everything else when we go out. And definitely, we have an airport too, so we have to always call the airport when we're out there flying as well. And with the GPS on these crazy things, it'll stop you if you're in GPS mode. It won't let you go any farther. You know, you can take it out of GPS and cheat it, but I don't recommend
A
that.
forest fire would be a no-fly zone, and the
Yeah.
FAA puts out, they call them NOTAMs, Notice to Airmen, daily and hourly, that tell you where you can't fly, and that is a no-no for that reason. Yeah, interfering with public safety is bad.
Okay, just a round of applause for David, Jeff, and Abby. Then. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Very affordable. Grab that chart. Yeah, you guys have been flying drones for a while, huh? Yeah, I personally have. Educational.
I still
some weird stuff.
Here, you do it like you kind of go circle around like this. I'm just terrible at doing it.